now, your main event. Introducing the hosts of Wrestling with Freddie, Jeff Dye, and Freddie Prinze Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of Wrestling with Freddie, now and eternally wrestling with friends. No news today. You receive a special episode where Mr. Jeff Dye and Mr. Freddie Prinze go over every champion the WWE has ever had, and we tell you who the best is. This is Wrestling with Friends. Good evening and good luck.
Yes. What's up, buddy?
Jeff, how are you, sir? How was your morning? How was your day? How's everything going?
So far, so good. I've been racking my brain. What is the best champion? You know, it's tough. It's tough. How do you measure it before we get into it?
People are going to get mad at us today. As far as measuring it, I think it's all around in-ring skill, star power, mic work, and also the length of time you were champion or the amount of times you became that champion. I think that's sort of the best way to address all of them. If there's any categories you think I'm missing in there, throw them in.
No, but because I was just measuring it by like champion. Just the single word, you know? Because sometimes a character is so great that they don't got to put the belt on them. They're like, people want to see The Undertaker no matter what.
I could not agree more. Yep.
They go, let's put the belt
not agree with that more.
On The Rock, because Undertaker, everyone's going to pop when they see Undertaker when he comes out. We don't need him to also be the champ. He was such a great wrestler and such a great character that they're like, he got screwed out of being the champ.
I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's ever been a wrestling fan in the history of wrestling that was like, well, I'm not going to go if Taker's not champ.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's ever, he's not champion? Well, I don't want to go to that show.
Yeah,
that's
he's not champ, this is fake.
He could very easily be one of the champs. Yeah. Exactly. He's not, he would beat everybody. This must be fake.
That's fine.
All right, sir. Well, we're going to start with the biggest title first. And that, sir, is the 24/7 champ. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, my favorite.
That's sir. Our truth.
He's the greatest.
We're going to start with the WWE World Championship. I say World's Championship like a possessive, but I think it's just World Championship. But World's, maybe my English is wrong. It seems like it should be the World's Champion, right? Because they belong to the world. So it should be possessive.
Yeah.
This one is probably the hardest one, just because the list is so big and prestigious. I mean, you can go from Bruno Sammartino, you could take Buddy Rogers, you could take Hulk Hogan, Andre, you go to The Rock, Mankind. Like, there's a million different guys that could all fit that bill. But for me, and it's a guy who I get frustrated with because he started something that you and I both hate so much, which is one word. What? And I hate it. But as far as the criteria that I presented in the beginning of the episode, ability to work in the ring, mic skills, star power, the length of time, the amount of times, all those things, for me, it's got to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. This guy went from being a pretty boy with Flying Brian Pillman at WCW in a tag team that he didn't even want to be in, to then becoming best friends with the guy. And then he comes to WWE, shaves his head, grows a goatee, puts on a vest, like a really bad, crappy leather vest, and becomes the biggest middle finger to corporate America and such a relatable character. He got to do to his boss, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, what every employee has wanted to do to their boss at one point in time, and that is beat that man's ass. And he did it time and time again. He hit Stephanie McMahon with stunners. He hit Shane with stunners. He hit everybody. He didn't care, man. So he may not be my favorite wrestler, but to me, he is the greatest WWE World's Champion of all of the times. That's what Santino Marella would say. In all of the times. What say you, sir?
Well, this is proof that we don't talk about these things before we get on the episode. Because mine is also Stone Cold Steve Austin.
No freaking way. How?
Because you made a great. You're right. Here's the thing. because I love Brock, right? Like Brock is the baddest dude in the world. Brock Lesnar, he's one of these guys you go, oh, he could beat up the whole locker room in real life. He could beat up all these guys out here in real life. He's an actual badass. It makes sense. Put the strap on him. He's the best. But he wasn't around enough. He would just take weeks off. Like we didn't even see the champ. He would record some backstage segments, probably pre-recorded. So I eliminated Brock Lesnar because he wasn't there all the time. He wasn't like present. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, I knew I would see every single week, whether he was the champion or the not. I knew we were going to hear that glass break and he was going to come out. He was going to say hilarious things on the microphone. He was going to Stone Cold stun everybody. And sometimes you see him tip a beer and go, I guess mankind is safe from Stone Cold. They must be pals. And then boom, Stone Cold Stunner just gives him his head. There was like he tricked us so many times into thinking like, oh, he came out to protect that guy. And Stone Cold stunned everybody and had some beers. And then he Stone Cold stuns the guy he came out to protect. It was just so great every single time. I don't think he was the first, but they gave him his own belt. That was like a Stone Cold Steve Austin belt. I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, now they do it for everyone, but I don't know if they ever, outside of just changing the belt for changing the belt, I don't know if they ever changed it for a person before Stone Cold.
It was the first I remember. I remember he has his own belt. They give him a smoking-eyed like skull belt. Like that is so cool. So I loved that. If you want to go with like fame and celebrity, I was thinking like, Hulk Hogan. I mean, because like even my mom knows Hulk Hogan. And then
that's what I was going to say. I'm surprised neither one of us picked Hulk.
Well, because Hulk was awesome, but like technical wrestler, no. I mean, he had like what, like a leg drop was like his finishing thing. And so as much as I love Hogan,
he had like 4 moves.
As much as he's my guy, because I used to rip my shirt off and run around like he's the Babe Ruth of wrestling. Where like Babe Ruth wasn't the greatest, but he's what made it what it is. So there was an argument in my head for Hulk Hogan. But it's also, this isn't about favorites and it's not about wrestlers, right? Because wrestling, I pick Undertaker. Favorites, I pick Hogan or whatever. Or The Rock even, because The Rock is great. But this is about favorite champions. And also like for me, what makes a champion is a guy that comes out there, you see him all the time. Stone Cold didn't go off to make movies like The Rock did.
A working champion. That's what you want. A working champion. I agree.
Because The Rock is the biggest superstar I think that wrestling has ever made. I don't think there's anyone larger. People know him in movies.
You can't. No, there's no argument to be made against that.
But the second he became champ, he became so famous and loved and likable that you go, he's gone. He's gone now. Like now he's a movie star. Now he's in Rampage, and we gotta pay him heaps of money just to make him come back and give a speech to promote the XFL, or give him to let him do like a little mic work with whoever our current star is. But Stone Cold, you knew was gonna be there every single night. His moves were badass. His catchphrases were badass. His look became badass. You referenced some of his earlier characters, and they weren't great.
Stunning Steve.
Yeah, Stunning Steve. I don't even remember any of those. I only know those because WWE's always making some sort of like little documentary or mini thing or TikTok to explain.
Hey, don't crap on those. I had something to do with a couple of those.
I love those. But me and people, actually, I don't pretend to, but a lot of wrestling fans pretend like they knew all that stuff. They just watch those things and then go, oh, did you know? It's like, well, you didn't know. You watched the thing. But I will say, I didn't remember Stone Cold until he was Stone Cold. And he, to me, is the greatest WWF/WWE champion that wrestling's ever had.
I'm interested in the people who disagree with us. I want to know how old they are, first of all, right? And I want to know like who their favorites are outside of that champion, because all those things shape who your best is. I think there'll be a lot of people that say John Cena, as far as like, especially as far as a working champion. I don't know if anybody put in as much championship time as that dude did during the PG era, which was not a beloved era in wrestling. It wouldn't be considered the diamond age, the gold age, the silver, or the bronze age. We call it the PG era, right? So he was burdened with being the champ and being on in the first hour of the show.
Yeah.
Because kids go to sleep during the third hour of Raw.
I never thought of that.
On the East Coast, and they wouldn't be able to see their champion. And I mean, Triple H used to crack jokes about it in promos. He's like, "Don't be mad, John. It's not my fault. All your fans go to sleep before the third hour." And that was on an episode of Raw. I was like, "Oh my God, how could you say that to the guy who said yes when Hunter said no?" Because he didn't want that burden. He wanted to do DX all the time, and that ain't PG. So I think there's an argument for him. There's an argument for The Rock. If you're a historian, which I am not, it's easily Bruno Sammartino because he held it, I think, longer than anyone until Roman. Did Roman break the record? I don't think. No, I think Sammartino was
4,040 days, but it's over 2 times. So I wonder if either one.
Yeah, well, so he's the Bill Russell, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the Bill Russell of champions. You acknowledge his greatness, but you don't necessarily allow all that greatness to apply to the modern era. So I'm interested in, especially if you guys disagree. If you agree, don't message me. But if you disagree, tell me how you're not going to hurt my feelings. I like who I like.
And also, don't forget,
I promise you won't hurt a stand-up comedian's feelings.
Well, it's not your favorite. We're not debating who your favorite wrestler is. That could go for eternity. And we're also not debating the greatest wrestler, because there could be a bevy of answers for best wrestler. But best champion, because here's the thing. I thought about Roman Reigns. I thought about coming in here and saying Roman Reigns. But I would say
that would have been your hot tag of the week right there.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. There wasn't a minute that he was champion that we didn't all love that he was champion, right? Roman Reigns has had many of those days where we wish he wasn't champion. Well, like there's been plenty of times he's been champion where all the fans are going, "Boo, stop doing this to us, Vince. We hate this." And then we come around and we go, "You know what? I like Roman. You know, maybe he's sick and I love him." And then you know, so here's the thing. Stone Cold, again, why I picked him is every minute that he held that belt, I was like, that's our guy.
If you take any other champion in their prime and put them in a ring with Stone Cold Steve Austin in his prime, who would the crowd want to win? And I think 10 times out of 10, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
100%.
Even if you put Hogan in there, Hogan in his prime versus Austin in his prime, who are you going to vote for? The guy telling you to say your prayers and eat your vitamins, or the guy that kicked his boss in the nuts, beat his ass, and didn't even get fired?
Yeah, and drank a beer over his corpse.
Spit it on him, poured it on his head. Like, he's just the most disrespectful dude ever, and I'm sitting here calling him the greatest.
Also, don't you think The Rock and Stone Cold were really flirting with what I talked about earlier, about how, like, you didn't need to put the belt on him at some point? Like almost like, dude, Stone Cold just comes out, does his thing. He's got a Zamboni. He's got a beer truck today. He's going to get the cooler of beers thrown to him. So it almost became this thing where it was like, oh, now they're going to take the belt off him because, you know, who needs him to need the belt? He's the greatest.
And to prove your point, The Rock threw his belt in the damn river.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's how necessary it was for their rivalry to be awesome.
Here's a Jeff Dye question for you. So when they do stuff like that, how do they do that? They got a guy dressed like Stone Cold on the other side of that bridge, and then
I don't know. I mean, the belt was for sure a replica,
right?
Which is,
but some kid's gonna find that and be like, "Is this a replica WWE belt just in the river? Like, does someone go fetch that? Like, how do they?"
Someone's trolling the river for bodies. They're like, "Oh, I'm the WWF champion. Yeah. Oh wait, let's find that body."
Yeah, some poor WWE employee has to. They go, Jackie Palumbo, go in there in the water and swim to the bottom and get that belt. We're not trying to lose another belt.
All right, let's flip the script and let's go to the greatest women's champion of all time.
Okay.
This one I feel like we're going to agree as well.
Yes.
There's a lot.
You say the name of the greatest WWE female champion on 3, 2, 1.
Trish
Stratus. Flair.
Oh.
What? Okay, I thought we were going to say the same thing. All
I
right, so
did
go ahead.
too. All right, here's why I say Trish. The women's division before Trish Stratus was not anything that was respected by the company, by the people, by really anyone. It was an afterthought. And Trish Stratus came in, and she was not the best promo, but she was serviceable as a promo. But her look was so solid. And she brought this whole new like level of sexuality where guys were like, holy crap. And these are her words. Look at that science experiment gone right. All right. And those are the words of Trish Stratus. Okay. So she's very humble about this as well. But she's being honest. No one looked like her. And it wasn't that she looked like a Barbie doll, because she didn't. She was just so beautiful and could wrestle, and this like coveted prize that all of a sudden, whether you knew it or not, you cared about women's wrestling. And without her, I don't know if Lita ever even gets a push ever. And Lita's my favorite, by the way, female. For those who don't know, Lita's my favorite female wrestler ever. And I remember their story that they told, which ended in Puerto Rico, where Lita was supposed to win and she blew out her knee in the rain outdoors in Puerto Rico. Is a hardcore match, not a hardcore match, but the match itself was very hardcore because she got legit injured. And these two women in the middle of this match, hearts breaking for one another, are having to redo the finish and keep the belt on Trish. I think she did so much for the sport, you know what I mean? She did so much for the women's division. I don't know if there would be a women's division today without the success that Trish Stratus had. Now tell me why I'm wrong and tell me why Charlotte's the greatest. My daughter agrees with you, by the way.
Here's the thing. If I was going to look at this list and pick hottest, Trish Stratus wins. I think she's the most beautiful woman in this entire thing, you know? But none of that should matter when we're talking about this. I guess look is a cool thing.
How dare you?
Part of her look.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you know
how dare you,
I was just
sir?
talking about Stone Cold's looks. Charlotte Flair is genetically more advanced than every other female wrestler.
Correct.
Tall, strong. It like she doesn't even like look cut like she's like worked out. She's just genetically like someone put her in a big machine and just clicked it up 2 notches. She's just bigger than all these ladies in every way.
Yeah.
And then you mix, she's like a gymnast or a cheerleader that flips around. She does all this crazy stuff, high risk moves. She's like I said, big enough and strong enough that like she's only wrestling people smaller than her. So she's easily able to like pick them up and like do all the moves. So then that makes her moves look better executed because she's just strong enough to like slam. When I was a young man, we used to wrestle on the trampoline and do all these like wrestling moves.
Yes.
And then sometimes our buddies would bring over their like younger brother who's like just smaller, you know? And it was always great because you're like, I'm a giant now. And you could just slam your buddy's little brothers because they were so much smaller than us. And that's what I feel like is happening with Charlie. And she's just so bigger. And then also you got to add that she's part of the legacy. You know,
sure.
You got Cody Rhodes, you got Dusty Rhodes, you got Freddie Prinze, you got Freddie Prinze Jr., you got Charlotte Flair, you got Ric Flair's daughter. So it just adds everything. Also, like when I see Ronda Rousey come out with Roddy Piper's gimmick,
yeah,
I get sick to my stomach. But when I see Charlotte Flair wearing like a very Ric Flair-esque robe, and the music and I hear her do the woo, it's the best. So for me, like I didn't even have to debate in my brain who the best woman is. As much as I wanted to say Wendy Richter, I easily went with Charlotte Flair, 13-time champion, giant, product of Rick.
It's a strong case. Look, we need 3 hours to do this, so we'll get through the next couple a little bit quicker. Let's go to the IC champ. Now, everyone's
best belt ever.
It is. Now, everybody should say Pat Patterson. However, I'm not going to invoke the power of the French Canadian. I love Mr. Patterson. He was so good to me when I worked there. He's the coolest. I said like he's still alive. He's the coolest friggin' dude. He would smoke cigarettes in every arena that we went to. People would come up to him and be like, you can't do that. He'd be like, yeah, okay, fuck off, whatever. Like he just did not give any Fs at all.
I know Vince.
He's like, Vince would be like, no, keep smoking. But for me, it's the man that threw a 70-yard touchdown to himself. It's the man whose three-point percentage is 100% from the field. He's never missed a three-point shot. It's the man who's only bowled a 300 in bowling. He's never not bowled a perfect game, ever. He's never hit a baseball that wasn't a home run. He's never competed in a tennis tournament he didn't win. And I don't mean win. I mean won every point. Like it was 40-love every single game. And that man is Mr. friggin' perfect. There has never been an IC champion, to my memory, except Bret Hart, that could work at the level Mr. Perfect worked at. And the IC title was known as the workers champion. The best technical wrestler in your federation got to wear that title. And I can't think of anyone who worked better. Great on the mic, great backstage segment, star presence, good looking. Everything about him was perfect. Spit the gum, slap it away, the white towel, everything. And you even have him right there because he looks so handsome. Mr. Friggin' Perfect. What say you, sir?
Curt Hennig is a great choice and was a great representation of this belt. I always say, like, I don't know if I've said it on here, but I've definitely said it to you before, is that, like, Curt Hennig, if I ran the gimmick, I'd make him undefeated. He would just be undefeated. He would never have lost. He's Mr. Perfect. He's Mr. Perfect. And they're like, this is unfair. His gimmick is that he's perfect. You're like, yeah, we can't make the perfect guy lose.
Yeah, we're trying to make him lose. He just won't. He's perfect.
Even he'd take a regular move like a suplex and he made it the perfect plex, which is like, so he's just like, there were so many little details that made this gimmick so hilarious, even though it's as simple as just, I'm perfect. And it's good little heel like character. I'm going to pick for the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. He's not my favorite, like I said, but I think he's the greatest, maybe of all time, but definitely of the IC belt. Shawn Michaels, the HBK. Nobody's had more moments.
Yeah, I hear you.
Nobody's had more moments than Shawn Michaels, like in ring, and maybe not always when he was with the IC belt, but just this guy. I feel like he was an honorable mention for my greatest champion ever.
Same,
if we're gonna go down all the names for the Intercontinental Champion, one name stands out is Shawn Michaels. Like, because I love Razor Ramon. That's my favorite wrestler ever, Razor Ramon. He's so cool, and he was the IC champ.
He was a great multi-time IC champ. Yeah,
he was Mr. IC. But I think he fits in the time period better. Like, I think if they kept the IC belt as it was for in the Attitude Era, like Shawn would have been the most successful IC guy ever. But Shawn went on to like try to get the championship belt and move on, and they kind of buried the IC title. Like, it wasn't as important. It was almost like the IC belt became this thing you try to get to eventually move up.
It became a stepping stone title. Yeah, you're not wrong with that. That was the exact philosophy when I worked there.
Yeah, but when I remember in this era with the Mr. Perfects and the Razor Ramones and the late Hogan already moved over to WC or was about to move over to WCW. The IC belt meant something. It was like a really cool belt, and like a lot of guys were honored to have it. It wasn't just something you throw to the Miz, like. And so that was a dig.
Terrible.
I picked Shawn Michaels. I think he's the greatest. I think he's I think he just had so many cool moments, and everybody loved him or everybody hated him while simultaneously loving to hate him.
Yeah.
So I picked Shawn Michaels, HBK, 3-time champion.
Well, like I said, we would need 2 hours to get through all this. So I think we need to do another episode. And I was going to get to the U.S. and tag teams today, but I think our next episode should be U.S. tag team, European, 24/7, hardcore, cruiserweight. I think we could get a whole nother episode out of those. I will say this. I didn't know if we should do the big gold belt as well, but if we had, I would have said Undertaker was the best to wear that belt. It just looked better on him than any other wrestler because he's just so friggin' gigantic. The title didn't dwarf him. That title's so big. It's so long. Not long, but like wide.
You got to be a big man to even wear it, let alone pull it off. Yeah.
That's why everybody puts it over their friggin' shoulder because it makes them look small, man. But I definitely think the next one we do, we hit the rest of them. So listen, everybody, hit us up with your takes. With the ones you think we got wrong, let us know. Maybe we'll even address some if it's creative enough or if it's insulting enough. But other than that, stay tuned because we're going to have interviews this season. We're bringing a lot of talent from WWE and AEW in. We're going to be interviewing them. Sometimes I might not even ask a wrestling question. I might just want you to get to know this performer for who they are. Or maybe I'll do only wrestling questions and you won't get to know them at all. It's not up to you. It's up to Mr. Dye and Mr. Prinze. Jeff, do you have any closing thoughts for the people?
Just love wrestling.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wrestling with Friends. I kind of like this, and I think we'll do another one where we put some more time into the episode and we hit everything, even if we go long. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Mr. Jeff Dye, I'm Freddie Prinze Jr., and this has been another fun episode of Wrestling with Freddie. Wrestling with Friends.
Follow us on Instagram, Wrestling with Freddie. Twitter is WWFreddie Pod. Follow us on all the socials so you can submit your questions for the Federation.
This has been a production of iHeart's My Cultura Podcast Network. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.